Hi, welcome back to a new video, and in this one I want to talk about a mod I've done to my Thrustmaster TH8A shifter. Now the TH8A is a very popular shifter, mainly because it is extremely well built. It is a nice piece of kit. A lot of people run these even if they're not using, particularly on PC, the rest of the Thrustmaster ecosystem, because as a standalone shifter it does offer a decent product, well made for a reasonable price, so it's popular in that regard. Now, it has, however, always had what most people consider two weak points. The first one is that the throw on it is extremely long, and a lot of people resolve that using short shifter kits, and you can get various plates that do that. I myself use one. I've got the Ricmotech one, which I personally think works excellently, and I've had a lot of years good service out of that. The second issue people have with them is actually weirdly a product of one of the strengths, or rather it's a byproduct of one of the strengths of the TH8A, because it uses heart sensors rather than any form of contact, so it's magnets effectively, to know whether it's in gear or not. What that basically means is there's no actual, other than the gate on top of it, there's no physical gate to go through, there's no mechanical linkages in there, so there's not a great deal of resistance either side to side or when you're actually pushing it into a gear. Now, there is a tensioning option on the TH8A which allows you to tweak that, but it never gets to the point where it feels like you're actually physically engaging a gear. So if you're purely interested in speed, that's absolutely fine. No resistance means it's quicker, so, but if you're purely interested in speed, you're probably not using H-pattern, you're going to stick to paddle shifters because they're quicker. People use H-pattern shifters mainly for the immersion side of things, and that's where the mod I want to talk about comes into play, because that's what it does. It increases the immersion by basically increasing the amount of force required to engage each gear into the gate. Now, there are a few of these around, and the one I've gone for is produced by an Italian company called 3D Wrap, and I will leave a link to down below. It's called the mod Cambio THR V2.0, and effectively it's a couple of 3D printed pieces of material with two basically bearing runs in there, so there's a ball bearing chase in there that's basically attached, and you do need to take your TH8A apart to fit these, but it's not particularly difficult to do. There's a couple of bits where you've got to be careful. I'm not going to post a video up showing you how to do it. There's more than enough of those on the internet, and there's actually one embedded on the actual shop page for the Cambio mod, so I'll just leave a link to that instead. What I want to talk about instead is basically what it's like to use. The one thing I will say is putting it together, if you've got a tiny amount of DIY skills and you've modded stuff, you're not really going to run into any problems with this, and if you follow the instructions it's fairly straightforward. The one thing I would say is if you are going to get one of these, make sure that you have some grease on hand. I used some silicone grease on this, but basically any good quality grease, you are going to need it to put in there, because basically you're adding physical components in there and you're going to be moving plastic on metal, so you want to make sure that that's not going to overly wear, build up heat, wear out, potentially stress fracture it, etc., and the grease will help with that massively. So do make sure you've got some grease. It doesn't come with any. It does come with everything else that you need in there, bar an Allen key, and yeah, I also found in mine I had lots of spare washers and bits and pieces left over as well, so they provide you with extras, which is good as well. So yeah, assembling it fairly straightforward. What's it like afterwards? Well, running it really does up the level of immersion you're looking at here. So it requires a significant amount more force to actually engage it in gear. And this is where you kind of like get to a personal preference kind of things. Because you know, is the level of resistance on par with what you would expect in a modern car? No, it's actually too much resistance for that. You know, your modern daily driver car, if it's still got a manual gearbox, these are assisted. They're very easy to engage. You don't need a great deal of force to do it. But if you've ever driven anything with a straight cut gearbox, that's basically built to last and withstand abuse rather than actually be a daily driver, subject to a lot less abuse, you'll know that on older vehicles or race spec vehicles, you do need that more mechanical force to engage the gears and get them in there, and that's what it's closer to the feel of. So, you know, does it feel particularly like, you know, if you're driving a manual BMW? No, it's not as slick as a shift in a manual BMW or a Honda Type R, something like that. You know, they've got very slick shifts. There is resistance in there, but, you know, it's a smooth resistance. This is a more mechanical force. It's closer to the kind of thing you would find in, say, an old Formula Ford. When you're driving something like that, or an old 6-pattern or 4-pattern manual Formula car, those kind of things. For me, it really does add to the immersion, but that's what it's there for. It's to aid immersion. It's not, categorically not going to make you quicker. In fact, if anything, it will probably make you a bit slower because you've now got that extra force, which means extra time to overcome that resistance in the change. So this is one of those mods, if you're after the immersion and that's what you drive for, go for it. But if it's something where you want to be quicker, no, this is not the mod for you. It's also not the cheapest thing in the world for what it is. Now, I understand, yet these are made to order effectively. This is a small company, and the price for the unit itself, just under €21, is quite reasonable. But I mean, I'm in the UK, so you've got to add in postage on top of that, which I think was around about another €10. So by the time you work it out, it's not the cheapest thing in the world for what it is. You've also got to add in some grease if you need to buy that, if you don't have it hanging around. So you know, it's one that I couldn't recommend wholeheartedly to everybody. It's not going to be for everybody. But if you do find that one of the issues you have with the TH8A is that lack of resistance when it's going into gear, and you want to increase the immersion around that, this is definitely worth shelling out the money for. I would imagine other solutions that work on a similar approach probably work just as well. I've not tried them. I've only given this one a go. But yeah, if immersion is what you're after increasing, this is definitely worth it. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I will pop another video up in a few months' time. We'll see how it's worn in. If there's any problems with it, if there's no problems with it, you won't hear from me again on this one, and this will stand alone. But I will supplement this if, you know, I do get any issues with wear, failure, or anything along those lines. So if you found this video useful, please do hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new content gets uploaded. Thanks very much. Take care.